Welcome to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love series. Today we're going to be diving into a case that'll leave you chilled to the bone. It's the Hapur Stalking Murder. And it's a story that I think forces us to ask, where does admiration end and dangerous obsession begin?
Yeah, that's a question that haunts us all, especially when we talk about a case like this one.
Yeah, for sure. So let's set the scene. Picture Hapur, India in 2020. You know, bustling town just like any other character, but at its heart, a tragedy was unfolding.
Right.
Our story revolves around Aarti Sharma. She was a 22-year-old college student, full of life, dreaming of becoming a teacher.
It's so relatable, right? Just a young woman trying to build her future.
Exactly. It makes what happened all the more heartbreaking.
Huh.
And then there's Ravi Chauhan, a man who lived in Aarti's neighborhood. At first glance, he might have seemed like someone with a crush.
Right. But his feelings for Artie quickly spiraled into something much darker. We often see these initial signs, these seemingly harmless acts of admiration that mask a much deeper, sinister intent.
Yeah. And in Ravi's case, it started with him following Aarti. Just a coincidence, right? Wrong. He began waiting outside of her college, lurking in the shadows, turning those glances into something terrifying.
Yeah, stalking at its very core is about control. The stalker needs to dominate their victim's life, often driven by a delusional sense of ownership, like they convince themselves they have some right to the person that they are stalking. And this need for control, unfortunately, often escalates into violence.
Artist's family, sensing the danger, they tried to intervene. They confronted Ravi, begging him to leave her alone. But I think he was already too far gone, trapped in his own twisted reality. And tragically, his obsession would soon turn deadly.
Yeah, and what's truly disturbing is that stalking often goes unreported. Like it's dismissed as overreacting or just a harmless crush. But the reality is that stalking is a crime with devastating consequences. And Artie's case tragically proves this.
On November 22, 2020, Aarti was walking home from college when Ravi confronted her on a busy street. Imagine that, being harassed in broad daylight with people all around. Witnesses recall Aarti pleading with him, her voice laced with fear, begging him to just leave her alone.
Right, the brazenness of the act itself is a chilling reminder of the stalker's mindset. They often believe they are entitled to the victim's time, their attention, and even affection. Any rejection is seen as a personal attack fueling their rage.
And that rage exploded. In front of everyone, Ravi pulled out a knife, attacking Aarti in a frenzy. It's almost unimaginable, this brutality unfolding in such a public space. It's a testament to how deeply entrenched a stalker's delusions can become.
Yeah, the public nature of this crime adds another layer of complexity. It speaks to the audacity and disregard for societal norms. But it also brings up the role of bystanders. While some might freeze in such a situation, it's vital to remember that even a small action can make a difference, like a call to the police, a shout to distract the attacker. Anything can disrupt that moment and potentially save a life.
In Aarti's case, thankfully people did intervene. They apprehended Ravi as he tried to flee, but the damage was done. Aarti, with multiple stab wounds, was rushed to the hospital where she tragically succumbed to her injuries. The police immediately launched an investigation, and they had a lot to unravel.
Yeah, investigations in stalking cases are like piecing together a shattered mirror. You have fragments, witness testimonies, digital footprints, and you need to reconstruct the complete picture.
Witnesses were crucial in Aarti's case. They painted a picture of Ravi's relentless pursuit of her, the constant harassment she faced, and his increasingly erratic behavior leading up to the attack.
Right, and then there's the digital trail. The messages Ravi sent Aarti, filled with threats, possessiveness, they became key pieces of evidence revealing the depth of his obsession.
And then there's his confession. When interrogated, Ravi admitted to killing Aarti. His justification? Chilling. He did it because of love and rejection.
This is where the analysis of the confession gets really interesting. We have to look beyond the surface, dissecting the language used, the justifications offered. These often reveal deeper psychological motives and manipulative tactics used by perpetrators to minimize their actions.
Yeah, it's almost like they create their own distorted reality, one where they believe they are the victims. And it's a chilling reminder of the danger of unchecked obsession. And in this case, Aarti paid the ultimate price for it.
Indeed. Her case serves as a harsh reminder that stalking is not a trivial matter. It's a crime that can escalate to horrific levels, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Artie's case, it became a lightning rod, sparking outrage and grief across India. It wasn't just a personal tragedy, it became a symbol of a much larger problem, like a society grappling with this dark realities of stalking and violence against women.
Right. It's like Artie's story became a mirror, reflecting back the vulnerabilities that so many women face every day.
Precisely. The public outcry was deafening. People took to the streets, they were demanding justice for Artie, and they were calling for a system that truly protected women from these horrors.
Yeah, and this wasn't just about seeking punishment for Ravi. It was about pushing for real systemic change.
Absolutely. There was a collective demand for stronger anti-stalking laws, for better enforcement of existing protections, a system that didn't just dismiss stalking as just a minor
Right,
offense.
because as we've seen in Artie's case, the line between obsession and violence can be terrifyingly thin.
And often the legal system fails to recognize this. It treats stalking as a mere annoyance rather than the potential precursor to this deadly violence that it is.
Artie's case reignited a crucial conversation about the existing legal framework in India. Many argued that the laws were inadequate, full of loopholes that allowed stalkers to continue their harassment with little consequence.
There was a growing realization that stalking needed to be recognized as a serious crime in its own right. The focus needed to shift from reacting to the tragic consequences to actively preventing stalking from escalating in the first place.
Right, it's about understanding the psychology of the stalker, recognizing those red flags early on, and intervening before the situation spirals out of control.
And that intervention takes this multi-pronged approach. It starts with education, raising awareness about the warning signs of stalking, teaching young people about healthy relationships, boundaries.
It's about creating a culture where these issues aren't brushed under the rug, where victims feel empowered to speak up and seek help without fear of judgment.
Exactly. And this cultural shift needs to be supported by a robust legal system, one that has clear, stringent laws against stalking, provides adequate resources for victims, and empowers law enforcement to take these threats seriously.
Artie's case also highlighted the crucial role of law enforcement in these situations. Often the first point of contact for a victim to respond can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Police officers need specialized training. They need to understand the nuances of stalking behavior, to conduct thorough investigations, and to support victims effectively.
Right, it's not just about taking a report, it's about connecting victims with the appropriate resources, like counseling, legal aid, advocacy groups.
It's about moving beyond simply reacting to incidents to proactively preventing future harm. And this requires a collaborative effort with law enforcement, social services, and community organizations working together to create a safety net for potential victims.
It sounds like Artie's case, while tragic, sparked a much-needed conversation about how society as a whole needs to address stalking and protect those who are vulnerable.
That's the silver lining in this dark cloud. Her story forced people to confront uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge the failings of the system, and to demand better. And while nothing can bring Artie back, her legacy can be one of positive change, of a society that learns from this tragedy and takes concrete steps to prevent it from happening again.
Artie's story is a potent reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a safer society. We need to be vigilant, to recognize the red flags, and to take action when we see someone being targeted.
That's where the concept of bystander intervention comes in. If you witness someone being harassed or stalked, don't just stand by. Speak up, intervene if it's safe to do so, offer support to the victim, or report the incident to the authorities. Your actions, however small they might seem, could potentially save a life.
Right, it's like the old saying, evil triumphs when good people do nothing. We can't afford to be complacent. We need to be active participants in this fight against stalking, advocating for change, supporting victims, and creating a culture where this behavior is simply not tolerated.
And that intolerance needs to be reflected in our laws, our institutions, and our everyday interactions. We need to challenge the societal norms that contribute to stalking behavior, promoting healthy relationships based on respect, equality, and consent.
Artie's story is a stark reminder that even in a crowded street in broad daylight, a life can be taken because of someone's twisted obsession. It's a wake-up call for us all.
Indeed, it compels us to reflect on our own roles, to ask ourselves, are we doing enough? Are we speaking up? Are we challenging harmful behaviors? Are we creating a world where someone like Artie can pursue her dreams without fear?
Yeah, it's a heavy question, but one we absolutely need to confront. So, where do we go from here? What can we do as individuals to create that safer world that you're talking about?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, thankfully, is multifaceted. I think it starts with awareness, educating ourselves about those warning signs of stalking. That's crucial. What might seem like harmless gestures, like persistent texting, showing up unannounced, can actually be huge red flags.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that those behaviors aren't romantic or endearing. They're signs of an unhealthy obsession, a need to control. And then, of course, we need to know what resources are out there, both for ourselves and for those we care about.
Absolutely. Familiarizing ourselves with support organizations, hotlines, legal options, that's critical. It's about being prepared, having a plan in place. Should we or someone we know find ourselves, facing this nightmare?
And it's not just about having resources, it's about creating a culture where those resources can be accessed without shame or judgment.
Exactly. Imagine a society where talking about stalking isn't taboo, where victims feel empowered to speak up, without fearing they won't be believed. I mean, that's the kind of environment we need to foster.
That makes me think about the people in Artie's life, like her friends, her family. What could they have done differently? Or maybe a better question is, what can we learn from their experience?
That's a question filled with both heartbreak and the potential for growth. In Artie's case, her family did try to intervene, confronting Ravi, urging him to leave her alone, but he was already too far gone, lost in his own twisted world. And what this teaches us is that intervention needs to happen early before the obsession escalates to these dangerous levels.
So what does early intervention look like?
It could be a friend noticing a change in someone's behavior. Maybe they're constantly checking their phone, jumpy, anxious, or making excuses for someone else's controlling actions. It's about having those tough conversations,
Hmm.
expressing concern without judgment, offering support.
It's almost like we need to become more attuned to the subtle signs, the whispers of trouble that can easily be overlooked in the busyness of life.
Yeah, that's it exactly. We need to become better listeners, more observant friends and family members, and we need to be ready to offer not just a listening ear, but also guidance and support in accessing professional help.
Because sometimes just having someone believe you, someone who validates your fears and says, this isn't right, can be incredibly powerful.
You're so right. Validation can be the first step towards healing and taking back control, and it can be the difference between staying silent and seeking help. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Artie's story is a tragic reminder that this isn't just about abstract concepts. This is about real lives, real people who are affected by this horrific crime.
It's a call to action for all of us. We need to be more aware, more proactive, and more compassionate in our efforts to combat stalking and protect those who are vulnerable.
As we conclude this deep dive, let's remember Aarti Sharma. Her dreams, her aspirations, her life tragically cut short.
Let her story be a catalyst for change. Let's honor her memory by working towards a future where everyone feels safe, respected, and empowered. A future where stalking is not just a crime, but a cultural taboo, a behavior met with swift and unwavering condemnation.
It's been a difficult conversation, but an incredibly important one. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember, you are not alone. If you or someone you know is experiencing stalking or harassment, please reach out for help. There are resources available, and there is hope for a brighter future.
And if this deep dive has resonated with you, we encourage you to continue the conversation. Talk to your friends, your family, your community, share what you've learned, and let's work together to create a world where stories like Aarti's become a relic of the past.
For more thought-provoking deep dives into real-life cases, please subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe.